Hey guys, Rob Tatro here. Welcome. Another episode of The Running Journey. This one's a fun one, guys. We've talked a lot lately about our training, about our races, but we've had a lot of questions from you guys, either via DMs, people we run with, people texting us, emails, asking for advice. A lot of people running their first marathon. I don't know if you guys know, but running is so hot right now. Running super hot. It's a line from Zoolander. It's Mugatu. Derek Zoolander is so hot right now. Anyways, running is hot right now. Running is in, and a lot of people running their first marathon. Running numbers are up throughout the world, especially here in Manitoba. A record number of first timers will attempt the race, and a lot of other races around here. So we decided to condense all those questions we've got and put them together for you in one episode. So this episode is all about questions on what to expect running a marathon, and I guess running your first marathon. So we break it down between pre-race basics, gear, logistics, race strategy, pacing strategy, nutrition, fueling, hydration strategy during the race, and then post-race and recovery. Lots of stuff in here. We try to hammer out as many questions as we can. I think we got through like 20 of them. So really good episode, lots of information, bit of a recap at the end. Also some storytelling throughout the episode, Charlie and I, and some of our first races and some mistakes we made. So lots of good stuff in here, guys. Episode 120, TRJ, The Running Journey. Strap in and enjoy. It's a good one. Hey, guys, welcome to The Running Journey. I'm Rob. It's my brother, Charlie. Today, we're talking about those questions that you've asked us about your first marathon or any marathon, actually. So we've had a lot of people ask us questions in the past about what I should do in preparation for a marathon, how I should run a marathon, what I should do on race day and afterwards. And we've decided to put all those together, questions that we get asked, friends, family, people in our running clubs. And we're going to try to answer as many questions as we can today during this episode. So if you've already run one, great. Agree or disagree with us. If you've never run a marathon, this is your chance to get some words of advice from two guys who've done a lot of marathons in the last 3-4 years. I think I've done about 25 or 30 is my guess. If I count the 13 I did with Run with Rob, 7 I did, and plus I did another probably 10. Yeah, I'm probably at 30, I think, close to 30 for sure marathons. And you've got to be up there, 25, probably 20, 25, I would imagine.
I think around 20. Yeah.
20 or so. So we've got 50 marathons between the two of us. Let's get going. We've broken this down between pre-race, race, and then post-race. And between race, we got some different stuff, pacing, etc. So pre-race, nutrition, hydration. Break it down as quickly as you can for us. What you would recommend someone do pre-race?
Yeah. So think about it as a week-long thing, or at least 3-4 nights before, where you got a carb load. So carb load means eating more carbohydrates. Some research saying you can eat up to 10 grams of carbs a day for 3 days leading up to it per kilogram of body weight, which is really just an insane amount. So I wouldn't worry about that.
So there's no limit, basically. Like you could eat whole bags of pretzels, whole
like
bagels.
I can eat a lot, and I've never reached those numbers. So it's really.
So if your race is on a Sunday, Manitoba Marathon's on a Sunday, this would be like the Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What have you done in the past, Rob?
Well, I used to just carb load the night before. I didn't know. Back when and now, I've kind of started doing it earlier. I certainly don't do that many. Now that there's more studies, there's more research about it. I try to eat as much as I can on the Thursday, Friday. The Saturday, I try to just have a regular diet. I do have maybe 10 to 20% more carbs the night before. 5:30, 6 o'clock. Nice healthy meal, but I don't change my meal. I do the same chicken and rice or chicken and pasta that I always do. I don't think you want to deviate too much, because you need to sleep well. Your body needs to be used to what you're eating. So I'd say eat what you normally eat.
The other part of that is you're actually going to be working out way less. So you don't have to increase it by that much, because it's your tapering week. So, but yeah, so
it's hard. It's hard to get all those carbs.
It's a tough one. As far as hydration, that's super important. I generally always hydrate a lot, but really have to be wary, especially if it's your first one, you might be nervous, you might be forgetting things. Okay. Make sure those days leading up, you're not going to, the water you drink on the morning of the marathon isn't going to help you. You have to kind of do it
before.
Have to accumulate it during the week.
Yeah. So do it before. And obviously mileage wise, hopefully you're doing like 30 to 40% of like very little miles race week. I do way less than probably what the book recommends. I'm
Yeah.
barely running race week. I like to like almost take it complete. Like I'll do a Monday, Tuesday run, half hour
Yeah.
or something like that. But I'm not running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or very little. I know you like to do a 20-minute kind of pre-race day.
Yeah, I'd say my volume goes down to less than 50% of the peak for sure on the race week. Probably, and then there's no long run that week, right? So you're
Yeah.
kind of losing that volume. The long run is the
You
marathon.
you want your legs to be fresh, fresh, fresh.
So yeah, so one thing I'm curious about, I do love to do a run the day before. I think that definitely depends on the person and the amount of experience you have. It might help you if you feel like taking an extra day of rest is going to help you, then take the day
Yeah.
of rest. But if you feel like having a kind of easy run the day before will help you, then to me that's up to you. But depending on how many, I'd say for most people, not running the day before might, if it's your first one, might be a good idea. But what do you think?
Yeah. Okay, let's hammer out some questions on gear and logistics. So I'm going to take you through some easy ones. Shoes. Should I wear a brand new pair of shoes is a question I often get. I bought these new super shoes. Should I wear them fresh out of the box?
Depends which brand. No, I think you should have run in them at least once. If not, I mean, they do
Try
help.
them anyways. Try them
They
anyways.
do help, but you're very much at risk of getting blisters or getting
Not a real injury.
injuries. No, you could get things that you don't expect. So I
Yeah.
would say at least run a few miles in
Yeah.
them.
Otherwise, wear
But
your comfortable
ideally,
shoes.
at least have one long run in them would be better.
Question I got from a friend last week. Should I carry my own gels or are they being handed out at race day? Most marathons, do they hand out race gels, Rob?
Yeah, most marathons do hand out race gels. I never really understood unless you've practiced with those gels. And plus, they're like so late in the race sometimes. So
Yeah, they
my
give them at
preference,
they
yeah,
give them at mile 18 or 16 usually. There might be one at like mile 9 or 10, but usually the
yeah.
second.
I'm not sure for Manitoba where they're at. So it can be a supplement if you don't want to carry too many. And then just grab a few extra there. That makes sense to me. But you need to be taking gels as soon as you can. Would be
I say
and
go to
we
the website,
yeah
find out what gels they have,
yeah
and try it with those. If you're not going to try it with those, don't try them on race day, would be my advice.
yeah
Carry.
yeah
And then the follow-up question to that is, do I carry my own gels with me? And I would say yes.
yes
Whatever
yeah
many gels you're going to eat, you're going to carry them. They make these shorts for men now. I don't know about women, but for men with like the skin tight pocket on both sides, you could easily fit a phone and 12 gels. No
yeah.
problem.
I carried 12 gels this year at Boston.
And it was no sweat. Like it's a bit bulky, but it's no sweat.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. Yeah.
So carry your gels. They also have these belts that are like tight zipper. You could fit 7-8 gels in there if you wanted to. That's also doubles as a bib. Speaking of bib, do I have to wear a bib? How do I get my bib?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think people might, if it's your first marathon, you might get nervous about like what's this bib pickup and all that. So every marathon will have basically, usually we'll have the website that says when you can go pick up your bib. You need to do that before race day.
You need to do it before race day.
Yeah, so I've scratched out of races because I didn't do this once. It's happened.
Yeah, I would say back in the day, if it's a small race, they'll let you. But probably if you're signing up for a marathon, it's a big enough race. You need to pick up your Friday or Saturday.
So Friday or Saturday, pick a time that's convenient for you. Go get your bib, and then figure out how you're going to put it, how you're going to wear it. Figure out everything you're going to wear the next day and how that bib. It's going to like I remember my first marathon. I don't know about you, but really wasn't sure where to put the bib. I in my first few marathons, I found that just putting it on my chest was the least intrusive. But I recently now that I have like a tri belt, I like just putting it on that tri belt. It's super easy. But that's up to you. Pick up a spot that's not going to be intrusive. Where would you put it?
I'd put it on my tri bike as well. That's what I do. It's convenient. So they got these little spring loaded things. You pull them out. there should be 2 punctured holes in your bib in each corner, potentially 4.
Yeah.
That's made to either put it through your tri belt or your running belt. So you'll take the cap out, you'll put the cable through the bib hole, and you put the cap back on, and that secures your bib. I can tell you that at London, they did not have perforation in the bibs. I was surprised. Apparently it's a new thing. They're not putting perforated corners in the bibs, is what someone told me at London, because they don't want to they want to leave it to you to how you want to
make the holes.
How do you want to make your holes?
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if you don't have a tri belt and you're like most people and you're using the safety pins, I would say you can just clip them on in 2 spots, but I would say clip them on in 4 spots.
If you're using the safety pins.
If you're using the safety pins, to me, it's less of a stress factor if you put all 4 and then it's nice and solid.
Yeah, because what you don't want to happen is one of the corners tears from the safety pin and then you're left with a dangling bib. Yeah, that's not fun. At least if you have 3 or 4 corners pinned, you don't have to worry about it. I like the front of the shorts. If you're doing a safety pin, it might not seem intuitive because your legs are moving, but it works. Trust me.
It works. It works. I didn't believe it at first. I never did on my legs, but now that I've done it a lot of times, it works fine. Yeah.
So that's for your bibs. You got to pick it up and then you're going to wear it. You're going to either perforate it through your running belt that you're going to buy ahead of time, or you're going to safety pin all 4 corners to the front of your shorts. Your bib's got to be visible. It's got to be in the front. And then further on into prep logistics clothing.
One more thing on the bib. I think the Manitoba Marathon has this, and there's a lot of races that do have this now as a feature. If it's your first marathon, well, it doesn't have to be your first, but you have customization options. So when I did my first marathon, I didn't have a customization option, but it did say my first on there. And at the end, people would cheer for you just because it was saying my first. So use those customization options or whatever you want, because people see something on your bib, especially the later miles. And if it's your first marathon, it's gonna the crowd's gonna see it, and they might cheer things for you specifically, and it might help you. I would say it could, anyways. Yeah.
Did it say my first for everyone who was running their first marathon? Is that what it?
I think the year I did it, it said it did that. Yeah, it said my first. Yeah,
cool. I didn't know that. I've seen like my name on there. I've seen that. Rob.
Yeah. Adding the name or is a thing that you can add to. People cheer your name as you go. I've never done it, but I've seen other people do it, and it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay. Back to the gear. So you had addressed it. Another question I have here is, should I lay out all my gear the night before?
That depends on what type of person you are, but I always pick it out the night before. It helps me sleep better, whatever. I look at the forecast and I decide. Sometimes the forecast can be like borderline. That's a little bit harder in those cases. So yeah,
I can't imagine someone not benefiting from laying it out. You kind of person would you have to be to not benefit from just,
I don't know, someone who just wants to. I thought maybe you'd be the type of person
I used to not
lay it out, but
yeah, I don't.
I would say you should. Absolutely, you should.
Yeah.
And
it can't hurt.
And then the selection of the gear is a thing to me that took me a very long time to figure out. But if you've done your long runs, you should know after you take that shower after your long run, you should know where you're feeling chafed or where so if you find clothes that you just don't chafe in, that is a huge bonus. You should wear that on marathon day. But usually everyone chafes in certain spots. So in those long runs, make sure you know where those spots are. And I used to not do this, but for the marathon, I think this is absolutely worth doing. I learned this during the 7 marathons in 7 days, where chafing, it would like build up over every day, right? So put Vaseline in those spots.
It's very simple.
Just put load up on that Vaseline on those spots, and it actually prevents it if you put enough.
It feels great, actually.
Yeah.
But 777, I'd have raw unexposed exposed skin there underneath. I would just scoop the Vaseline, load up, And then all of a sudden it felt soothing. And then I didn't think about it the whole race. It was
No. And I
disappears.
chafed so much the first 2 races. And then I just started loading it up, and I didn't chafe anything after. So
It actually eliminates it for me.
It
and
100%
for you.
eliminates it. So it seems like this annoying thing to do, but so
just do it.
For me, it's like under the arms, nipples, between the legs, or the thighs or whatever. But yeah, you should know where those are.
I got more questions on gear and logistics. One question here is, should I put Band-Aids on my nipples?
Yeah, I don't, because I've got a really nice compression shirt that I wear for marathons that I never chafe. But if I'm not wearing that compression shirt, I would. I've never actually done it too many times. So I think you're the expert on that question. I think the answer is yes, if you need to.
Well, if you don't know for a fact that you can do this much distance without chafing, it's kind of a race ruiner, like having the bleeding nipples.
Yeah,
it's
very likely to happen if
Yes.
you've never done that distance.
So when in doubt, I would say just put a couple Band-Aids over top before going out in the morning, and they should stick. They should stay the whole time. And even if they don't stay the whole time, they might fall off at mile 18 or 20 when you're super sweaty. But now you're only going to get 6 miles of exposed nipples, right? So it's not going to ruin you. I bought these things called nip guards in the past. They're higher end. They're unbelievable. If you want a level up, nip guards, they stick around your nip. They're really, really good. Another question here on logistics, Charlie. Should I wear my vest or a racing belt for water?
So to me, the answer to that question is it depends, and how much you've practiced and how you've practiced. So I see, after we had that long run with the soft flasks. Thanks, Melvin.
Thanks. Oh, shout out to Melvin. All right, buddy.
The soft flasks. I mean, I think that there is definitely some value there in terms of not having to wait for aid stations. So it depends on a couple things, like how often you're going to aid stations, how much do you mind slowing down for aid stations, and how much do you feel comfortable? How much have you practiced actually wearing the vest? So I've never done it, but I could see the usefulness if you just. I do like having that extra water on hand, especially in the late miles when you it's harder to get to the aid stations. But so I didn't really provide a good answer, but I think it depends on your scenario. Think about it if you've practiced, first of all.
Would you say that depending on your goals, like if your goal is just to finish and to have a good day, like a pleasurable experience, I could see wearing a vest would reduce, the likelihood of bonking, this you'd have this sense of safety and security, knowing you always have water. You're not gonna. So although you're carrying extra weight, right? So every 500 mLs is roughly a pound. 450 mLs is roughly a pound. So every pound is roughly 1 to 2 seconds per mile. So it's costing you a little bit, but it's not that much price to pay if you're not super worried about pace. Plus, you could refill them, whatever. But I think you should know that there is enough water on the course.
Yeah, there is enough water
on the course.
You're not going to run out. There's one every mile.
Or
and
two.
This is actually, to me, a critical thing for first timers that for me, I didn't know, or I didn't really, but those aid stations, use them, take your time, unless you really unless you've practiced and you want to a 3:15 or whatever. I mean, take your time at those days. I've run 3:30s by walking every aid station. You don't have to rush through these aid stations. Make sure you get your hydration in. Absolutely. And if you need 2 or 3 cups, take 3 cups, whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless you're qualifying for Boston, unless you're trying to qualify for Boston, you're not going to get hurt by taking 5-6 strides of walking to make sure.
Especially if it's your first one, it'll give you that little break. It'll give you that little break that'll help you, I think. And you gotta make sure you get your nutrition, your hydration, your electrolytes. They gotta. You cannot. That's the one thing you can't shortcut on, I would say.
Yeah, we'll get to how much of those to take in a sec. I'm still in pre-race.
Yeah,
a couple more questions for you. What do I do with my phone, my keys, my warm-up clothes, my wallet? what do I do with all that?
Okay, so
There's
phone.
generally a drop bag.
Yeah, generally a drop bag. I've never used them, but I think they would have been very convenient for me in Boston this year when I lost my wife for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say you can. There's a couple of options there, right? So you can put all your extra stuff in a. If you have a bunch of extra stuff, it might make, and you want at the finish line, I think that drop bag can be super useful.
I think most people actually do this, Charlie, more than we don't. You and I have never done this, but I think most people probably do this, right?
I think it's like 50-50, but
Is
I'm
it?
not sure.
Okay. I did it
Uh,
in London and it was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, we did it. Where did we do it? And it didn't seem to be too. We did it in Phoenix, I think.
Vegas or Phoenix?
Vegas or Phoenix, one of those, where it wasn't bad. It was just finding it. We had to wait 10-20 minutes. Big deal. Oh, we had to wait 10 minutes for our bags. Big deal, right?
Yeah. And then you know it's safe, you know it's secure, you know you get all your stuff. You could do what Charlie and I do, which is, you put your key on your tire and you take the minimum
hope it
stuff
doesn't
you
get
need.
stolen.
Hope it doesn't get stolen. I carry my phone with me all the time when I run, and I do that. Maybe I'm crazy, but I keep it for
You like sending
emergencies,
texts while you're
and I
running.
send text while I'm running, and I record content when I'm running. So
Now,
that's
I
why
personally like not having my phone just because I like get in the zone. But that's why that's a personal thing, right? I think I think most people do carry their phones. I think I'm more the exception on this one.
Oh, well, I think I'm going the other way now because London, I had it. I didn't look at it once. I was so dialed in. I wasn't recording content in London. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Actually, I think I did record content. Yeah, I took some photos.
The other option is if you're meeting people after the race.
Yes.
There's some logistics there to set that up. That's not as like I lost my wife for 2 hours after Boston. So that's not always easy to set up, but if you can meet someone and they can have your stuff, that is another option.
Okay, more questions about pre-race, and these are quick ones. Am I going to be able to piss or poo number one or number two before the race, Charlie?
Yes, absolutely. So my average, I'd say, yeah, there's tons of usually there's porta potties. A lot of times there'll be lineups, so you might have to wait. But I usually, as soon as I get to the start line, I
get in line.
If there's lines, get in line. Pee, get in line.
Get back in line.
If there's number two going to happen, you'll know. I mean, I personally like to get it out of the way a bit earlier, but
you might not know though if it's your first one, right? It's possible you don't know.
Yeah,
you're
but
a little surprised by it.
You get nerves, so
but try it.
It's a lot more. Yeah, just go in and try if you think nerves. It's a lot more likely right before a race than you think because the nerves and everything, right?
Yeah, I never pooed before marathons ever till very recently.
Yeah.
Like I went my first 15 marathons without pooing before a race.
Yeah.
So there will be
first thing in the morning, so I generally don't have to wait till I get there. But
there's generally going to be like an accumulation. So like the lines might be confusing. I'm going to tell you this, and if you follow this podcast, you know that Charlie and I have struggled pre-race porta potty lines throughout our entire running careers. It's just part of running a marathon. So you find the line, you go in it, you wait. It moves pretty quick. If you absolutely have to, you'll find a tree and you'll piss on a tree. If you're a guy, you'll do that. If you're a girl, hopefully you don't have to piss on the side of the urinal like I've seen in Chicago.
Seen people do it.
Yeah. Okay. So we've covered pre-race, most of the pre-race logistics. Okay. One more question on pre-race. Where do sorry, go ahead. And then you want to ask your
so related to this topic is race day hydration and nutrition. We haven't really talked about.
Yeah, no, that's kind of
you're getting there. Okay.
Yeah. I'm still in pre-race. And I think my last pre-race question that I had, this one's from my mom. She's like, where do I start? Where do I place myself if there's no corrals, if it's a smaller race? Like, so if you go to New York or Chicago or Boston or one of these big races, they're going to tell you where to start. You're going to be in corral pink, row 3 or whatever it is. But if you're just, at the Manitoba Marathon, which is still a big race, it's a free-for-all. So there is no, at most of these bigger, smaller races, there is no order. It gets a free-for-all.
So for the marathon, it's a lot easier usually. I mean, because there'll be pacers. So to me,
talk about that.
So to me, you kind of know what, if you're coming up on your marathon, you might not know exactly what you're going to run, but you might have an idea of what you're going to run. And I would say you'd want to place yourself approximately where you think you're going to finish. Maybe and this is a preference thing. I would prefer to go a little bit further back to where I would normally expect to start so that I can not start off too hot. I did the opposite in Boston, where I did exactly that in Boston, where I started way too far back, and that actually caused me problems. But you're not going to get those problems in like most medium-sized marathons, like the Manitoba Marathon, I think. So let's say, for example, you think you're going to run in, it's your first marathon, you'd be happy with 4:20, but somehow you think maybe, you never know, you could do a 4. Let's say it's
Like
you'd
George.
be yeah. So you think you can do a 4:20, and a 4 something like that would be a bonus. So I would like start around that 4:15 pacer if that was the case, or maybe slightly behind it, and then you work your way through and you figure it out as you go.
But wait, you got to explain what the pacers, like what that looks like, the signs.
Yeah, so the
like,
pacers will be carrying signs. Each pacer will be carrying a sign that says what the finish time. So, some I've seen in races where they'll show the finish time, but they'll might also show the pace in minutes per mile. In the example that I saw, I think that was New York where they had that. But anyways, I think you go by the time you see that time. So usually that person will have a bunch of people around him or her, or they, and so you place yourself relative. That's a gauging stick. Like where those pacers are is kind of a gauging stick. As a pacer, we have to kind of, okay, so if I'm a 4:30, I'm gonna go and see where the 4:15 is, and I'm gonna go a little bit behind them, and there's that chain. So it kind of helps everyone seed themselves.
There's going to be signs, and they're going to just be spread out 3:45, 4:15, 4:30, and you kind of slot yourself in between. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask, like, how do you do? How would you do it?
Oh, exact same thing. Yeah, I would do the exact same thing, but it's great to talk it through and how we do that. One more question about logistics. Should I wear? I'm used to running with music podcast. Should I do that on a race day?
So technically, they're not allowed.
Most races, I think.
Most races for safety reasons.
But everyone, there's a lot of people who do it. You're going to say the same thing as me. Don't do it if enjoy the day, right?
Yeah, I usually run with earphones on for my easy runs and things like that. But for a race, I like to just go without them.
I strongly recommend.
It's like I want to talk to people. I want to kind of get the feel of it. So I think you're going to enjoy it more if you don't have them, personally.
But especially if it's your first race, right? You want
and technically they're not allowed. So I'm not going to.
One thing you could do is you could just carry like your AirPods or whatever in your pocket, and if you really need them, you're struggling and you want to just a boost, you want to hear your favorite playlist or something, you could like pull them out for mile 18 or 19 or 20 for a few miles just to kind of carry you through. But again, we wouldn't advise to do that if it's illegal, if it's not recommended by the race. So there you go. I covered that. Oh yeah. And then one last question. My buddy and I have been running together. I think I'm going to be slightly faster than him, but he asked me if we could run together. What should I do?
That's a tough one. Depends on a couple things. So is it both their first?
It's just a question I got from one of our, I'm assuming it's both their first. Yeah.
So let's say it's both their first. I think you should definitely run together to start. And if you want to speed up at the end, go ahead.
Okay. Start together because it's going to be way easier.
And yeah, it's going to be a lot easier as that together.
If you can knock off.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, and the hardest thing about your first marathon is really, I think one of the hardest things is you're going to feel really good to start because you're excited. You've been training for, I don't know how long, 16 weeks. you've just tapered. That first mile, you're going to run it at your normal pace, and it's going to feel like you're running. Let's say you run it at your normal training pace, and that's been 10-minute miles. It's going to feel like you're running at like 12-minute miles. It's going to feel that easy, that first mile, because you'll be so the biggest challenge. So what a lot of people would do in that situation is they're going to run their first mile at 8 minutes per mile instead of 10 minutes. And then they're going to kill themselves. Right. So the biggest pitfall there is to not run too fast at the beginning. So if you're, that's why I would say, yeah, it's okay to start a bit slower than you want.
Yeah, the biggest problem is always going out way too fast. One of the questions here is, we're getting into the race now. Okay, race questions. So that is a great question. How fast should I run my first mile? But question here is, if I'm feeling good, is it a good idea to bank time in the first half? That way, when I'm slowing down in the second half, I have all these seconds of accumulated time faster than race pace.
Yeah, we've talked about this subject a lot, but banking time is really a way to run slower. I'm going to say it straight out. The more you bank, the slower your overall time is going to be. So that means that you're basically depleting your extra energy. So, and then once you hit a certain point of depleting that energy, you're not, let's say you're gaining 10 seconds a mile for the first 10 miles. Once you've kind of exhausted that bank balance, it's not going to be 10 seconds a mile. You're going to be losing a minute a mile, minute and a half. So okay, you might gain 1 minute at the beginning. And this is the hardest thing, because I know some experienced marathon runners and myself who struggle with this. It's the hardest thing to kind of understand intuitively. You're feeling good. Oh, why don't I just go 5 seconds a mile faster? You're going to lose that time at the end. And if you do have it in the tank, then you can speed up at the end. But for your first marathon, how many people have you ever heard of doing that, Rob?
A couple Ethiopians, but and Kenyans, but none of us, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, you. So to me, yes, very bad idea to bank time. Bank energy.
Bank energy instead.
So if it feels easy, that's good. Don't speed up. Just look at it as if you're saving energy, not saving. And then, because what to expect in your first marathon is it's going to get really hard at the end. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, let's get into this. Okay. I've been following a training plan, running all my miles at 10-minute miles. I feel pretty good. How fast should I run my first 10 miles? Well, the question was two-part. How fast should I run my first mile? How fast should I run my first mile? So I guess this is someone who doesn't know what the pacing is. They're not like us, where we know exactly our heart rate thresholds at various paces, and so they're kind of just runners.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I would ask that person before doing a full answer, but I'm gonna make an assumption that they're running kind of a regular plan where they have a long run at the end, and they're maybe running they've went from, I don't know, 20 miles a week to 40 miles a week or something normal. I don't know what that number is over the course of their training plan. So they've got significant miles in. In that case, I think my answer would be run your first mile at 10 and keep running them at 10 till you know you can't, and then you have to slow down, or till you can go faster and finish the race, and then you speed up. I think that would be my simple answer, because usually, so the thing with race day is usually you get a bonus on race day, because, well, a couple things, taper, just the extra energy, things like that. So that 10-minute is going to feel super easy at the beginning, but it needs to feel easy because it's your first marathon. So I don't know if that made sense. Like, that's a tough question. What do you think, Rob?
I think it leads into the bigger question about how it should feel, right? So nobody's ever run a marathon. They don't know how it should feel, because at any point, if you hear yourself saying, I don't know if I can hold this, to me,
Yeah.
that's a big red flag, right? That's like
I mean, I think if you're saying that at mile 20 or 16, that's not bad. That means you're pretty close to pacing yourself, right? But if you're saying that at mile 7 or 6, then that means you should slow down.
yeah, it's game over. It's game over for whatever pace you thought you'd have. If you're running 9-minute miles and you're like, oh, I think I want to do a whole thing at 9-minute miles and maybe push at the end. And then you're at mile 7 doing 9 miles. You're like, I don't know if I can hold this. Maybe go 9:30.
So like for someone who doesn't have experience, so anyone who's running their first marathon, I think the advice should be something like the first 10 miles need to feel easy and super easy. Like that's not, I wouldn't give that advice to a more seasoned veteran marathon runner, but your first one, I would say like first 10 miles got to be easy, even like super easy, like not
like free,
basically
free.
free.
Almost
Think of
free.
as getting those miles in for free, because that 26 is going to be hard. And then the next 10 miles are, okay, you're working. Now you're working. And then once you hit mile 20, then it's like, okay, well, you got 10K left to do. So just what's the pace that you can, at that point, you're just doing it by feel, right?
Yeah. And at that point, you want
if
to
you're still running, you're doing really well at that point.
Yeah. If you're moving, you're doing great. If you're still in the race, you're doing great. If you're running, you're unbelievable. If you're anywhere near your original pace, then you're better than 97% of people. So if you somehow, it's going to be painful. It's going to be shitty. Because you will hit something called the wall, a variation of it.
Yep.
Where you're not going to want to continue. Your legs aren't going to want to move. You're going to be like, I don't understand why I can't keep going. Or maybe it's your mind that's going to be like, I don't want to continue. Or maybe it's your cardio, whatever. Combination of all those, you're going to want to just quit. And then you just got to overcome. And that's why these marathons are so special. And I heard, what's the name of the fastest Canadian marathoner? Rory Linklater or something like that?
Second fastest, yeah.
The second fastest. So I heard him on Inspired Souls podcast. And he said something, and I think he owes you a royalty. I don't know if you know this. He said, you know what, Carolyn? And he paused. He says, marathons are hard. And he just paused and he said that. And I was like, that's Charlie's line.
He's been listening to the podcast.
He has been listening to the podcast, I guess. So yes, marathons are hard. And if it's your first one, they're incredibly hard. And the cool thing about them being so hard is when you overcome it, you're feeling like you've accomplished so much and it's so rewarding. So it will be hard.
Yeah, so like just to add, like this is a subject like that I'm very passionate about. I think we were talking about the mental aspect. So if the question is how do I avoid or how do I manage the sensation I'm going to get about hitting the wall at usually it's mile 20 or 21. Like for me, I think when I did my first marathon, it was like 18. It was earlier. I mean, it depends on when you do it, right? So to me, there's two questions there. And I don't know, maybe we're going too far ahead here, but so how do you manage hitting that wall in terms of trying to avoid it? I'd say go slow at the beginning. That's the number one thing. And be mentally prepared for it's going to get harder at some point, and you can handle a little bit more discomfort than you think at that point. Like be mentally prepared for it, but you can handle it. So to me, those would be the two things on handling it in advance or preparing for it would be go slower at the beginning and then expect that it's going to get hard around 18, 19, 20. And remember that it's supposed to feel that way and you can handle it. You've never experienced it. So that's why it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay. It's normal. I'm okay with this. You're okay with this.
Yeah.
I know you have some questions too. I've been asking all the questions, so I'll keep going unless you want to chime in with some because you have.
Well, then the other thing I want to talk about the wall, and maybe I'm too far ahead here is
no, that's fine.
Suppose you do hit the wall. Okay. You haven't been successful. You maybe went out too hard or a little bit or whatever, and you do hit the wall.
You will.
What have been I have some strategies, but I'm curious to hear. I'm sure you have hit the wall as well. What are some strategies to overcome that or to keep on going when you do hit that wall? Because I think that's going to happen to a lot of people who are running their first marathon.
I'm old school, and this is probably, I don't know if this is the best way to do it or not. I just try to think of inspiring things. I just try to think of people that have inspired me, people that have done hard things, and how all I'm trying to do is run 6 miles here. I got 6 miles left.
Yeah.
So I think of like Terry Fox, or I think of, my dad and his cancer, or I think of, anyone that I can think of. And I make a list ahead of time, and I think of like inspiring people, inspiring messages, and I just kind of store that in my brain. And then when I need them, I'll go and get them. And if I need to quote Tyler Mislachuk and go 20 seconds of courage, I will do that. And I go old school, and I don't know what, psychologists will say about my strategy, but that's worked for me. And then I always go like, come on, Rob, it's not, these guys are running across Canada on one leg. Like, you can do 6 miles. And I'm arguing with myself. That's what I've chosen to do.
Yeah. So I think for me, I haven't been very successful at this. When I hit the wall, I hit the wall. But to me, it's just about, sometimes it's just about doing mini goals, like getting back in the moment. And then, so an example where I did hit the wall is one of the first half marathons we ran together. And I know there's not really walls in a half marathon, but at some point I was like, I can't sustain.
There are. I think there are, Charlie. I disagree with that, because I ran a lot of half marathons with people over the last 3 years, a lot of half marathons, and they all kind of hit a mini wall at kilometer 15, 16. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So at that point, so I knew I couldn't sustain our early fast pace. And I just, all of a sudden I said, okay, just keep it under 8 minutes per mile every mile. And I just kept going at that pace. So those mini goals. So I had, basically they were all 1 mile goals. In Texas, I hit the wall hard at mile. I ran the first 8 miles of that marathon. And then at mile 8, I was like, I don't think I can keep running anymore. So I started walking a lot. And this is okay in some cases. You might hit a wall and you might need to walk. But what I did to reduce the damage of how much I was walking was I would force myself to put a limit on how far I could walk. So I would pick a spot in the distance and say it's 100 meters. Like, they were short distances. And then, so I'd say, once you hit that point, you have to start running. And then I would just start running. And then I'd pick out another spot to how far I'd have to run. So these little mini goals to keep you going, because sometimes it's just so hard to keep going, were some of the strategies I liked.
I love that. I want to expand on that, because I had a question for you about walking and did I fail if I walk, but you've addressed it. So the mini goals are like, that's very Terry Fox-ish. And that's something that I always do too. Pick a point, run to that point, Because if you actually break down walking in a race, you've trained, you're fit, maybe you're not able to run a marathon that specific moment, maybe, but there's a reason you're walking. It's either your cardio, your heart rate is too high and your heart needs just a break to pump less heart, or your legs are sore and they just need to move the lactic acid out. I think those are probably the two main reasons people are walking. Like, they might just think I'm hurting and I can't do it, but in reality, it's probably one of those two things, right?
Well, so, I think those are like the internal causes, but I think also you can kind of like, sometimes your mind can play tricks on you to thinking that you have to walk, even though you might not have to.
Right. Okay. But if we say there are two probably main reasons why you're walking, but obviously the real reason is you just don't want to run anymore. I get it. That's the reason you're walking. But if we break that down and we go, okay, well, how long does it take your heart rate to drop 10 or 20 beeps? I guarantee you, if you've been training, it's probably 30 seconds or a minute, get your heart rate down 10 or 20 beeps. And that's enough to start running again. And how long does it take to get the lactic acid out of your legs and for your legs to feel okay to run again? It's probably less than a minute, probably 30 seconds.
Very long,
So then the argument to walk, and I used to do this, I used to walk 5 minutes. And I'd be like, why did I? Because it's just easier to just walk, right? So I think if your point about setting a rule, and you talked about this one of our runs recently, like setting a rule to how long you could walk is critical, because otherwise you're just going to walk the rest.
Yeah, which is fine too. I mean, that's okay too.
It's better than quitting for sure.
Yeah.
But ahead of time, if you're listening to this podcast ahead of time and you're sharp enough mentally to think, what do I do if I'm in a position to walk? And you tell yourself, okay, Rob, I need it because my heart rate and my lactic acid. So I don't need to walk more than a minute. So I'll self-impose myself a max minute walk. And if you're able to be disciplined, at least that way, it is reassuring to walk a bit. And then you run and then you say, okay, I'll do 2 minutes of running. And then you could walk again or whatever. And then what I noticed every time I've ever had to do that, you do a few of these and then you're like, you know what? I'm back. I can run again. because your heart rate's come down now and you're feeling better because you've walked a bit. So now you could run usually.
Yeah.
Right. Like think of the times you've had to walk.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's just like, as long as you make it a finite amount of time,
And it's okay. It's okay if you're walking.
Yeah.
I have
one more strategy that
Yeah.
I've actually haven't really tried much, but it was on Carolyn's podcast, Inspired Souls, about the kind of you say a word and then you do a physical thing. So I tried it in my short run this week. I had a short 15-minute hard run, and it was getting hard at about minute 10. And I tried it once and it seemed to work. It kind of just like,
so I didn't understand that. I tried to wrap my head around it. I had a hard time, maybe because I was like having a tough workout and I was focusing more on my workout than my listening to the podcast. But I struggled with that episode. And like, I know she's probably right. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
So the simple concept, and I'm not going to do it justice, but basically you have a word. So for me, maybe I like to think that I'm resilient, let's say. So my word might be resilient. So whenever you start thinking negative, so when I was doing that 15-minute hard run at minute 10, I was like, oh man, can I keep going? That's negative thought right away, right? So to snap out of it, you say that word. So for me, it was resilient, let's say. And then you do an action. So my action was like, clap your hands. And it's supposed to like get you back on kind of just the moment and out of that negativity spiral. So I might try that. It's an interesting concept.
Is it like Pavlov's dog a little bit? Then eventually you're going to just clap your hands and you're just going to automatically be positive. Is that the idea?
I think if you train, it's called a bounce back strategy. So I think if you train it, you get better at it. That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe it. I definitely believe it, because power of the mind is so freaking powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah.
You can ask questions if you want. I'm not trying to hog, but I'm just going to keep going through my list of questions that people have sent me or that people have asked me.
I have one more comment on like the walking part. So I'm actually pacing. I mean, you can actually have walking as part of your strategy too. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm actually
for sure. So 10 ones or
I'm
15
actually
ones.
pacing the 4:30 marathon in a week, and it's a 10 and 1, which means running 10 minutes, walking a minute. And strategies like that, I think, actually make sense for a lot of people. So like, don't be afraid to try things like that as well. If you think that's your jam, if you practice that way or whatever.
I'm not an expert in that, and I know some people it works and some people believe in it, and great if that's what you're doing.
So my reminds me of Fortaleza. It was like run 2 minutes, walk 30 seconds at the end or something. I could barely run 2 minutes.
I was talking to Grant about that race, and he on our last long, and he was talking about it, and he was saying that was a pretty good time you did. Now that I think about it, like my last two marathons, like I did a 3:58 there in Fortaleza. That is probably one of my best races ever. Like it was so hot that day, and I'd run 5 marathons already in 4 days. So like that's a good time that I did. I'm proud of that one. Like that was a hot day in Brazil, and it was just like we couldn't get enough water in. Like drinking liters and liters of water. It was just an obscene day. Anyways, I'm happy with that race. I have more questions here. What about should I stretch if I start cramping? Is the question.
Maybe. So I've only cramped once during a race, and what helped for me, I did stretch it for like a second, and then I just kept walking. For me, just cured it. I think what happens sometimes with cramping is, my understanding what can happen is just it's not getting enough oxygen and not getting enough energy into that muscle, and it just decides it's done. So like by walking, you can kind of warm it up and it gets those energy systems back in there and things like that. So I don't know the answer to this. My guess would be walk.
Okay.
Try to walk. I mean, at first you won't be able to walk. So you have to like, in my experience, the one time I had it, I couldn't walk for like 10 seconds. But as soon as I started walking, then it started feeling better. And then eventually I was able to actually run pretty hard after. So,
okay.
What about you? Have you ever had cramps during races? No.
Knock on wood. I've been really lucky. Yeah. Never had a cramp. What if I have to take a poo during the race? Well,
Take a
it's
poo
pretty
during the
simple
race.
answer.
Go
Stop
to
at the porta
potty and
potty.
take a poo.
Take
No
a
big
poo.
deal.
Do what you got to do. Yeah. Same
Yeah.
with pee. Yeah, do that. We talked about aid stations, how often they're spaced out. Okay. Is it normal to feel sick to my stomach during the race?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be
I'd
nervous.
say there are some times where, to me, when that's happened is usually when it's really hot. But it's happened to me a few times. Yeah. I think it's normal.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What do you do if you get that feeling? I guess there's different there's different types of that feeling, but for me, often what I'll do is I'll drink more just straight up water and less of like, I feel like that can sometimes be like too much Gatorade or too many gels for me. That causes that. So I'll go into more water after, but I don't know. And also the heat. So you just got to get more water in. Yeah.
I try to just pretend it's not real, like close my mind, say, this isn't real. You're not really hurting your stomach. You're fine.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Like I had the boudet kind of thing.
Yeah.
The next question is a bit of a longer one. I'll do the whole thing. Do I need to take salt tablets, gels? How much water? Can you make out a plan for me for my first race?
Okay. So the answer is the salt tablets. You're the expert on that, but to me, the answer is these are not essential items, but they will make your race better. So in other words,
I feel like gels are borderline essential.
Yeah, I mean, I ran my first 5 marathons without gels.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, it makes the race way, way better if you do take gels. But the better to practice. I mean, unless you think you've got a strong stomach and you just do a couple and you see how it feels. But I would say, yeah, you should definitely. I think the plan. It all depends on how much used to it you are, but generally you can go 25 minutes. Every 25 minutes you can take a gel. That'd be ideal. But most people, I don't think in their first marathon would be able to do that many. I'm not sure.
I think the quick answer, you touched on it, is train for as much possible gels as you can consume, and execute that on race day, as many as you possibly can take. Salt tablets, if you've trained for it and you think it'll help, and if it's a hot day, take some as directed every half hour, 45 minutes, if you want to carry those with you. Water, you said it earlier, drink every aid station.
Drink every. So depending on like how long you're going to be out there, like my first few, I would drink a lot more because I was going slightly slower. So I would make sure I'd stop at every aid station to make sure I would get enough water. Sorry, that's false. Because my first one, I didn't drink water. But I mean, once I learned about this, so maybe my 4th or 5th marathon, probably my 4th, probably my 2nd, actually. My 2nd marathon, once I learned about this, is, get in as much water as possible. But when I started going faster, I started taking maybe like 3 cups, but like quickly. So it's like getting a sip in every time. But I'd say for your first, make sure you at least slow down and make sure you get water in.
Okay. A bit of a oddball question there I got. What's the etiquette for talking to people during the race?
Good question.
I'll give you my angle if you want. I think if you're feeling it and you're able to converse, there's no shame in asking someone how they're doing or what their goal is or where they're from.
Yeah.
You'll get a pretty quick answer if they want to converse with you.
Yeah, you can tell by their mood right away if they'll want to keep talking. I've never talked to anyone during a marathon except you. Yeah. Sorry. And when I was pacing, I talked a lot,
but sometimes it helps people get their mind off things and whatever. And if you're kind of in the early stages and your heart rate's not at 170 or 180 or 190, and you're able to have a conversation and it's pleasant and someone wants to open up. And especially, I think the only time it's really going to happen is if you've been jogging at the same pace with someone for a period of time, then maybe you'll do the old, oh, I like your pace or whatever. And then something might come up. But it's certainly not a faux pas. You can talk to someone.
Yeah. I mean, if they're not comfortable with it, you should be able to see it.
Yeah. And then just stop talking to them.
Yeah. I was in such a pain cave in Boston. There was I don't think I wanted to talk to anyone after mile 8, but it was just a lot of effort.
Okay. Okay. A question on painkillers. Should I take painkillers before or during the race?
My answer is no.
Yeah, I've never taken them.
So I think you want to feel pain, because if you don't, you might get injured.
Great answer.
That's my opinion. I don't know. I actually don't know this answer. But
can I get kicked off the course if I'm too slow?
Yeah, there's sweepers at the end. Normally 6 hours, but depends on each race will tell you what there are some races that don't have sweepers, but I think they're very few and far between.
Usually it's a 15-minute mile pace or a little slower than that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So that means you're probably not able to walk that pace. So if you're getting caught up by the sweepers, you're going to have to do a bit of running every mile to stay ahead, probably.
I know that you can potentially, if you're really worried about it, you could potentially make arrangements to start earlier. I think.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm not sure. I think that could be an option, but.
And then I have a couple questions. Last question, and I'll let you ask if you have any. Clothes, hat wear. There's two. One question is, should I wear a hat and sunglasses? Well, the answer is, if it's sunny, you should wear a hat.
You should absolutely have a hat.
It's cutting down.
I'm not a sunglasses guy, but
me neither.
And if you normally wear sunglasses when it's hot and out, you should wear those too, I would say. But the hat's critical. If the sun's out, no matter what the temperature is.
Yeah, because it's cutting down. It's not that you can't run in the sun. Yes, you're tough. We know you can run in the sun. It's that you're getting less sun rays to your body, which is draining your energy.
Yeah, if the sun's out, absolutely wear a
hat. Disposable clothes if on a cold day. Should I wear throwaway clothes on a cold day?
This is a tough question for me because I'm so warm-blooded.
Some people for sure though.
Yes, if you show up there and you're cold and you think you'll be cold, yeah, bring clothes so that you're not cold at the start.
Yeah, it could either be a race bag check, or they'll have throwaway bins and you could just throw your shirt. You can even run the first mile or two. There's usually a throwaway bin at most races, a mile or two in.
Yeah,
and you can.
Well, if you're gonna get rid of clothes, be polite. Don't just leave it on the street.
No. I said sometimes they have bins a mile or two.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's often bins, or at least hand it to someone at an aid station or something.
Yes, Plan B is the aid station.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I've never run without headphones or a podcast. What am I going to think of for 4 straight hours? This is a younger guy who texted me this question.
Okay, wow, that's a tough one.
You and I never run. Well, I never run with earphones, so for me,
I like to do my hard runs without earphones, so I'm used to it. But so that's a good question. I think you can, if you have to, you can wear your headphones. It's. I'm not gonna say. I shouldn't say this, but
I don't think they're gonna kick you out. Maybe don't. We're not telling you what to do, but I think if you were to start without them and pull them out at mile 1, probably nobody would know. Worst case, you get a warning and you put them away.
Yeah.
But don't do that.
But enjoy the race.
Yeah, I think enjoy the race.
Talk to people. Feel the air hitting your skin. Feel how easy your marathon pace is at the beginning, but still slow down.
There are some fun games you could play, like how fast is that girl running? How fast is that guy running?
You could. Yeah, there's other things you could do.
How many Nike shoes do I see?
You could focus on things that are aesthetically pleasing, or there's a lot of things you can do. Shoes. Count the amount of Nikes versus Asics, whatever.
Do you have a mantra, and should I have one?
Good question. Do I have a mantra? I think I've been told that most people should have one. I don't really have one. I'm like really kind of in the zone when I'm doing my best, and there's just like keep going, I guess it might be my mantra, but or be in the moment might be my mantra. I don't know. Do
That's
you have
for sure
mantras?
yours. Yeah, I've used some, like, just it's going to be hard, or it's hard. It's going to be hard.
It's supposed to be hard is one
Supposed
that
to be
I
hard.
when I get to the point of the race, I'm like, and I've actually reversed that one where I've been like, this is too easy. That made me pick up my pace. That's actually happened.
Do hard things is one that I've used.
Yeah.
Oh, I do hard things, or this is why I do hard things. There's a whole bunch online. I am ready, I am strong, suffer now, smile at the finish, earn every step.
I think mantras
You
are good if they work for you. I think that's
I think if it's meaningful to you,
yeah.
like the do hard things means something for me, because it's like a reminder of where I came from anyways. And now I do hard things because life's way better now and easier now than it was before. So that's a good one for me.
So for me, I guess other things now that I'm thinking about it that help me sometimes is like you've done this before, like in your
Okay.
like I think of my training.
You're
I
ready
don't
for
know.
this, you prep for this, something like that.
Yeah.
And usually, like, that thing's going to come out like mile 18, 19, 20, 21, probably.
Yeah, I often at 20, the 10K left is like
Okay.
I've done this before. That's a tough one, especially if it's your first marathon, because like
Yeah.
I use my experience in previous marathons to be like, I can finish, So but yeah, maybe think of tough half marathons that you finished strong in and think of those moments. I think those could be
Or
helpful.
tough days that you had in your training that
Tough
you powered
workouts,
through.
yeah, that you've completed. Yeah.
Um, Piece of advice about the 0.2 at the end of 26.2, or no piece of advice there, but it's
It
way
can be
longer than
hard.
it seems.
It can be a hard point too sometimes.
Every time I do it, there's no way this is 0.2 miles. This is like half a mile.
It can seem very long, but just keep running hard. You're almost there.
Yeah, you're there. By
You
then,
can do it. So that one I can guarantee
you can run the rest of it.
you can run the rest and you can pick up speed
Yeah.
in that last point too if you just can put your mind to it.
Yeah. And then finally, I have a few questions about after the race.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you have some, but what do I do after I cross the finish line?
Enjoy the moment, first of all, because it's your first marathon, and just kind of, I think, soak in that glory would be the first thing I would do.
I think this question is more like, where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah. You're supposed
there
to
will
keep
be
moving. You're supposed to keep moving. You don't want to stay in the way of people.
there's a volunteer who's going to give you a medal
Yeah.
around your neck. Then
Yeah.
they're going to guide you to keep moving down the chute, and then they're going to send you towards bananas and
There are
muffins
usually
and,
lots of volunteers that are helpful, and
yeah.
they will usually congratulate you because it's your
Sit
first
down
one.
if you have to, take it all in. Ideally, you want to move a little bit
You
out
want
of
to
the way.
move away from, you don't want to prevent people from like coming in, and you don't want to create a log jam. So
Yeah. And then go and eat.
Eat.
Go and drink a ton of water. Drink a ton of water and eat, and then take some time off.
Yeah.
And then be prepared for a potential post-race blues.
Yes.
And know that might be coming.
Yep.
That goes through all the questions I had. I'm surprised we got through all of them. Did you have any that I missed?
I guess we talked a lot about pacing. We talked about you talked about maybe weather. How you plan for the weather?
Yeah, you're very good at this. Weather, I'd say, look at the weather, map out the 4 or 5 hours of weather, open your weather app, look at rain possibility, wind, wind chill if it's a cold day, if that matters. Feels like heat and feels like cold. Wind is important. And then, if you're able to run in 4 degrees, hopefully you run outside or 5 or 6 degrees, and you might need to have a layer. But aside from that, you're going to be wearing your shorts and your singlet and your hat. So layers shouldn't matter. And if you're facing into wind, well, you just got to run into wind. Sorry to break it to you.
Unless you can find windbreaker. So always try to find a windbreaker, though, if you are running into the wind. That's actually that you should do that.
Yeah. Shout out to Philip Busk from Copenhagen, who's been running some fast races lately. The original.
Did you hear about? So Johnny Coffin's 10K PR.
Yeah.
Same story, pretty much.
Yeah.
He just like he like just into the wind. There was a section into the wind. He just like ran behind all the people and then he's out sprinted them to the finish.
Yeah, I like it. Johnny and I think alike. So if it's a windy day, Charlie's point here is dead accurate. Find a windbreaker and get behind him or them.
Even if it's a group or whatever, absolutely. Even
you can make it up later. Like you're way better off running 1 or 2 or 5 seconds slower.
Yeah.
And just saving that energy and then kind of running to the next group if you can or whatever. Like there's no reason to be windbreaking by yourself if it's a very windy day.
Run the tangent. So this is a thing that people do very badly, even experienced runners.
They're terrible.
Running the tangent. So when you go and you check your watch after a marathon, it says 26.4 or 26.5. Part of that is your watch not being accurate, but part of that is also you've actually run extra distance, right? So they measure the course to be the shortest line possible. So if you're doing, let's say you're doing a left turn and then there's a right turn, okay? So it's hard to visually show this, but think left turn, right turn. When you turn right, you want to be cutting that corner right against the curb, and then the shortest line will be a diagonal line from that corner to the next corner to the right turn. So you want to be thinking about running the shortest possible distance always. Ideally, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but think about 0.2 miles. That will take you 2 minutes, right? If you're a 10-minute miler. So that's 2 minutes you can save potentially.
That's an easy 2 minutes. That's a low hanging fruit right there. That's an easy 2 minutes to save.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might not know what turns are coming up. So piece of advice, if you're, if this is valuable to you, take a look at the course map the night before or look at it at least a few times so you know roughly where your turns are. If it's not that many turns, you could probably memorize the turns and know where your tangents are. What you don't want to do is you're running and then you think it's a right turn, so you go diagonal to the right and then it's actually a left turn, then you got to do diagonal back because then you've added quite a few.
Yeah, I somehow ran like 26.45 at Boston. I felt like I was running the tangents, but nope.
In London, I was on the blue line.
Yeah, you had a blue line there, so that helps, right?
Yeah, and I still had more mileage.
Yeah, well, that might be the watch.
It might be my watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if there's back-to-back turns is where it can make a difference, right? So, yeah.
So I think that's it for our questions. We'll do a quick 1 or 2 minutes on, is the Birds Hill race happening this weekend?
Yeah.
Air quality is not a problem.
No, you just go hard.
You just go, okay. I don't know. I know they canceled the biking provincials on the weekend.
Really?
Yeah. My buddy, Robert Croker, who,
Victor was wanting to be in it, I think.
Victor is crushing miles in the Southwest right now. He's in Manitou and he's in.
Yeah, I want to do those routes with him.
But okay, so they canceled cycling provincials. I'm guessing if the air quality doesn't improve, they might pull the chute on the race. I know that would be really, really disappointing, but
it'd be possible, but I think they'll have it.
As long as it kind of clears out, as long as the wind picks up and clears out, hopefully we're fine.
Well, there's supposed to be rain this week, so hopefully.
Does rain clear the smoke?
Yeah, so this morning I went for my bike ride, 60K, and it was beautiful day out, no smoke. And then as soon as the sun came out, it became like really smoky today.
Do you think it was smoky and you couldn't see it, or do you think it would just?
I can feel when it's smoky, I can like taste it. I can feel it. Yeah.
I didn't run outside today. I was like, I'll run on the treadmill. I missed my treadmill. It's been a long time. So
Yeah, you guys have needed to
what?
get needed to get reacquainted.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. You mumbled under your breath. Chirp. Okay, so we have the Birds Hill Triathlon this weekend, and I'm trying to get the Barefoot Guinness record, and then we are pacing the Manitoba Marathon next weekend. So that is a fun time, exciting time. So we'll stop it there unless you have further questions or advice for first timers.
I feel like there's so much we haven't covered, but yeah, I think it's good for now.
We have to.
So remember, marathons are hard. Thanks, Rory, for
the great Rory Linklater once said. No, that's yours. That one's for sure yours. Marathons are hard. It will be hard. At some point, you will want to quit. I guarantee you. You're going to say, this is not worth it. Why am I doing this? It's ridiculous. Why am I putting myself through this pain? You're going to say this in your head. You will say this. And I should just quit. Way easier to just quit. Why am I? Who cares? Nobody cares if I finish this. But trust me, it's worth it when you finish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. And
wait. Any stories from your first marathon?
Well, I did a 1:43 2:16 split.
It sounds about like I did like a 1:40.
Oh, I gotta tell this story.
I did like a 1:44 to. No, I did like a 1:40 and then 2:05 split mine first one.
Okay,
something like
so that. Remember when I say I'm different than Charlie in that I did a marathon when I was a kid, and I didn't. So this is before I was obese.
Yeah, you were 18, right, when you did.
Yeah, this is 25 years ago or whatever. This is a good story. I didn't know there was such a thing as chip timing, so I'll tell this story. And I had no watches, and I had no phones, and I had no idea what time it was, and I had no idea how fast I was running. Could you imagine doing a race?
Yeah. In those days, though, you measured it with your car. You knew, okay, that's 800 meters, and
that's how I did all my training. And I would do training. I didn't do much, but I would do mile roads, right? Anyways, I was in good shape because I was on the volleyball team that summer, and I felt like I was in great shape. I started the race, and I was a little bit behind in the pack. And I wanted to do a good time, but I didn't really know what a good time was. But my dad had always said sub-4 is a good time. So I was like, okay, my old man could do sub-4. I could do sub-4. Like, I'm in way better shape than him. Did he ever do sub-4, or did he come close?
I don't think he
did. I know he did a 9-hour 50 miler.
Not 50 miler in 9 hours.
Yeah, which is better than a 4-hour. Yeah. But anyways, so I did the race, and every once in a while I would ask someone, what time is it? That was how and then I do the math. Okay, mile 16, all right. And I had no idea how far.
That's how you're pacing based on
That's how I was pacing.
Time of day.
Time of day, I would ask. Time of day. And I knew the race. So I got to the end, and I was thinking, I think I'm close. So I busted into a sprint, and then I turned. It used to be at the track by the Bomber Stadium.
The old track, yeah.
The old track. So you do the whole course, then you start at the back of the track, and when I got onto the track, I saw the clock. It was a 2-sided clock.
Yeah.
So I had 400 meters left. I had to do call it 300 meters. I had to do, and I saw that I had, let's say, I don't know, a minute. It was like 3:59:03 or something like that. I was like, oh my God, I have to do a really fast. So I busted into a sprint, turned the corner, and I saw the clock, 3:59:54, 5, 6. I'm not going to make it. So, wow, I missed it. 4 hours and 8 seconds or whatever. And I was like, that is the most demoralizing thing ever. I missed it. And then the next day in the Winnipeg Free Press,
the results used to always be published all in the Winnipeg Free Press.
Like 2 pages or 4, whatever, just name after name after name of results all the way down. And I went to my name and I saw 3:58:47. I was like, what the heck?
It's a mistake. It's got to be a mistake.
I was like, all right, I'll take it. It was chip time. It was chip time because I started in the back. Back then, the chips were on your shoes. It was a little chip you would tie to your shoe. And that's how I got my sub-4. I had no idea that I'd even done it. And 1:43 on the first half. Wow, I'm indestructible. I'm going to do like a 3:30, a 3:20 here. I'm going to speed up in the second half probably, and I'll finish probably 3:20, 3:15. And then boom, I hit the wall. I walked. I don't know how many miles. It was just not fun. No nutrition. I wasn't eating. No
Yeah, that
nutrition.
doesn't surprise me. But you were getting water, right?
I was getting water, absolutely. Yeah, I knew that you had to drink as much water as possible, but no
So,
nutrition.
so my story, I was a bit older when I did my first one, and not as good as your story, but I had trained a full year and I was like, okay, I can do this. I had gotten a few halves and I was pretty good shape, and I was hoping for 3:30. I'd trained a full year. And so I just went with a group. I was with a group and they were running like just under 8-minute miles, like 7:45 or something. And so I was like, okay, bank time. Yeah, let's bank some time just in case things go wrong. And I was about 140 or so at the half. And I was doing well. And the guys asked me, like, so what's your goal? These guys were really experienced runners. I remember they had the roadkill thing on their jerseys or whatever. And
I don't know what that is, but okay.
well, you see them at races. I don't know. Aldo, I think, is part of that. And they asked me my goal, and I said 3:30. And they like, I think I remember the look now. It was like, no, you're not going to do it.
Because you were doing way
Well, I
faster
was
than
under
that.
that pace. I was under that pace at that
You
time,
were
but
struggling and they could see you.
they could see how much I was breathing and things like that.
Yeah.
But I thought I could still do it anyways. So then I kept going, didn't drink any water because I was like, oh, I've done my last training run. I had done 22 miles at race pace.
28 miles I did last week at race pace.
Yeah, no water. I thought I was good.
This is when you were doing like race pace long distance miles, right? For your training?
All my miles were at race pace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And you did like 24. Didn't you do like a 24?
How that felt? Yeah.
Like 2 weeks out?
Yeah. So anyways, at mile, like I just completely bonked at like, I don't remember. I think it was around 16, 17. I don't remember exactly, but I remember I started walking and I think I was really dehydrated. Well, I mean, I did drink water. So, and I was in those days, you did the end on Lindale.
Yeah.
And I remember some person was sitting on their lawn and they had a cooler full of water.
Gilds Bay or whatever.
And I was barely moving. I was walking. The guy came and grabbed a cooler from his a water bottle from his cooler and like gave it to me as I was walking really slow. And he's like, you need this. Drank it and I instantly started feeling better. It was like the first water I'd drank the entire race.
Can you imagine?
Oh. And then anyway, so I kept going. And then I think another really nice moment was like one guy just passed me and he like tapped me. He stopped, tapped me on the shoulder. It's like, you can do this. And then I just kept going. And then it was walk running from there on in, but I still ended up with a pretty decent time. So it was okay. It was really, but it was the hardest marathon I ever ran. So
if I'm having a good day and I'm feeling it and I'm going and I see someone who's having a hard day and I think I'll give them you got this. Like I'll give them a quick mantra. And I don't know if it's that bad form or what, but like anyone who's ever done that to me, I've been appreciative of it. So
yeah, in that moment, I'll always remember that. It was like, it was like, I don't know, it saved me on that day. So
yeah, you can do this. You've prepared for this. You got this. Only 5 miles left. Whatever. I'll tell them something and maybe they're pissed off at me. Like, screw you. You don't know what kind of pain I'm in right now. But I do it anyways.
Yeah.
It was a different era, right? Like no water, just no clocks.
I definitely didn't have gels. I didn't know what a gel was.
No clocks, no watch. Like, what was I thinking?
How was I? I was tracking my time. So it was more advanced because mine was 2015. So way after.
Yeah, I was 15 years before you.
Yeah. So I had my phone and my phone would tell me my pace every like 2 minutes or something. So it was kind of annoying for the people around me, but it would be like last quarter mile pace was 7:45 minutes per mile, something like that. It would give me like
every 2 minutes, every quarter mile.
I don't remember. I think every quarter mile it would give me my pace. That's how I had set it up. Anyways.
And you're carrying your phone with you. Oh, that's the only way to track the distance.
It's the only way I could track my pace and how well I was doing and stuff. Yeah. That I knew of at the time. I'm sure Garmin's existed.
When I did that first one, Grains, friend of the podcast, Grains, did it that year. And Claude, my dad, did it that year. And it's Grains' story, but I'll tell it anyways. Grains and I ran the first 10 miles together. I don't remember, a portion together.
Yeah.
And we were kind of thinking, we had no idea. We didn't train together. No one was talking about this. We thought we'd both finish around the same time. We had no idea, but he fell hard. He had a tough time. Well, hard. He ended up 4:08, I think, or something like that. So not like 8 minutes behind me, not that far. Actually, maybe we ran more than that together. Maybe we ran like the first 20 miles together. Anyways, point of my story is he was going to like quit. He was going to give up and he was going to quit. He was on Lyndale Drive. And then he heard, "Way to go, Claude." And then that's my dad's name. And he's like, "You got to be kidding me." He looked behind and it was like someone on Lyndale Drive who knew my dad or whatever was like cheering my dad on. So my dad was catching up to Grains. And Grains said, "No effing way is this old man going to beat me." And started running and finished like a minute or two ahead of Claude, something like that, or 3 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a fun story. That was a good day. Great day, actually.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, subscribe, guys. More miles, less pace. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next video.
All right.